MusicalTalk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to Musical Talk. My name is Nick Cutson. Hello, Hannah.
Hello, Nick.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. The clocks have changed, which
Yay!
is lovely.
I came home from work in the light. It was very nice.
You're singing along.
I came home from work in the light.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
This is going to be a Disney heavy-ish episode. We're going to be discussing seeing the film of Snow White, which has come out. Yes, in case you haven't heard. And also A Whole New World of Alan Menken, which was the concert that Alan did recently-ish at the London Palladium. What do you want to start with?
I don't mind. Dealer's choice. Go on.
Let's start with Snow White. Let's get that out of the way first. I guess the question is, you're a true Disney girl, and I haven't seen a film in about 38,000 years. So in a way, it was like seeing it brand new for me. When did you last see the original?
A few years back.
Do you hold it fondly in your heart?
I do. When I was younger, I was terrified of it. Absolutely terrified. Couldn't watch it because it would get to the opening bit with the magic mirror and I would burst into tears. And I remember screaming at my mum to turn it off. It took me years to actually be brave enough to actually kind of get over that bit and then watch the rest of the film.
Last 2 years or what?
Thanks. But no, like as a 3-4-year-old, it was my biggest fear was like the magic mirror from Snow White.
So you never made it to the transformation scene then?
No, oh god, no! Like literally the opening bit. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. But eventually, I ended up watching it and I loved it. So yeah, but it was one of those that I like you say I dip in and out of. It was never like Cinderella or The Little Mermaid that were constants in my life.
Because you won't see the remake of Little Mermaid, will you?
No, because I love The Little Mermaid and I know that I love it and I don't want like if I'm going to watch The Little Mermaid, I'll just watch the original. So I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it at some point. I still haven't seen the remake of Beauty and the Beast either. Or Aladdin.
But you didn't mind the Cinderella remake, did you?
No, I liked that. But then I liked that they actually used the whole of the thing was filmed on an actual film camera rather than digital. So it still gives it like that nice fairy tale edge and things. I did watch that one. I thought that filming it that way gave it a really nice kind of rose tinted look and it fitted with everything so well. And I think just the production of it was done in a really well thought out way. And then it feels as though Disney were riding off the success of that and then have just gone, now we can do this one and this one and this one and this one. And it's like almost lost its way as to why did Cinderella work as a remake? I've only seen it a few times, like a couple of times, but... And again...
I mean, people count Maleficent as a remake as well, don't they?
As a Sleeping Beauty remake. I watched that once and I am not a fan, but...
I saw it at the cinema, it was okay. I just wonder, with Little Mermaid, Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and not so much...
Oh yeah, I've not seen Lion King.
Mufasa or... they did Pinocchio as well. And
oh yeah, I forget they did that.
Yeah, so does everyone else, don't worry. Excluding the 90s ones, if we look at Pinocchio, Cinderella, I guess Sleeping Beauty will be at some point, and now Snow White, who are these for? Because the people that rely on the nostalgia, i.e. you and me, want to go, more so me, are curious to see the remakes.
So... my way of thinking and looking at this is things like Maleficent, where they changed plot points and things quite significantly, and told they wickeded that story and did it from her point of view.
They should just call it Evil Queen and put Reuben in it, and it would have been wonderful.
And hey, don't go spilling his secrets. He's got a box office smasher in the works. So
don't talk to me about his smashing his box office, but anyway.
Oh. Bless him.
Who are these films for?
I suddenly was like, wait, what am I talking about? So I think with Maleficent and I think with Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, those sort of, what, like you say, the 90s ones, they're very much...
Renaissance.
Yeah, they're very much aimed at us as a target audience. The ones who were the first wave of kids seeing those films that are now adults. And it's like, oh, I remember this from my childhood, going along. Whereas Snow White, I found it was really interesting because I liked that they didn't mess with the runtime too much. They didn't go, now let's make this a 2.5 hour spectacular. Like, they added about 20 minutes onto it.
Even that was too long.
Yeah, I did look at my watch at the time when she woke up, spoiler alert, and I was like, okay, it's 10 to 3. 10 past 3 and the film actually finished. I'm like, why do we whack an extra 20 minutes onto the end of this film that just is complete, made for the remake?
They had to put the Stolen from Matilda ending onto it.
Yeah, they did. They very much did. Because I missed the boulder.
Yeah.
I missed the boulder. But it feels as though this Snow White film is very much aimed at children.
I think they're trying to remind children that Snow White...
Not even remind them, but just have it reintroduced to a new generation.
Yeah.
When you think about how old the film is, I mean, I might have mentioned it before on here, but I work in early years, so I see a lot of how Disney impacts kids of 18 months, 2 years old, 3 years old. And I know...
40 years old.
Yeah, in my last place... There was a kid that loved Snow White every single day. Hannah, can you draw me Snow White? Hannah, can you draw me Snow White? Hannah, can you put a Snow White song on? Hannah, can you sing Snow White? Hannah, can we play Snow White? The amount of times I'd just be
Hannah,
like...
can I drop a boulder on you?
No, they all wanted to be the evil queen and make me eat the apple and fall down on the floor. I was like, oh no. But then it'd be like, right, now you're the queen. Now you're the queen. And I have to lie down. And so you can be the prince. And you can come and wake them up. And like, they'd arrange it all and they'd swap characters and everything. So
it's very much in their mind.
It's very much still ingrained to a certain few children. And, you know, I've got a Disney Princess bottle with various princesses on. Children can point out Snow White and go, oh, that's Snow White. But then I think it got to a point where some of the other children only knew it was Snow White because of this kid that had a huge love for the film. So... I think if parents are introducing it, they're obviously the children are aware of it, but I feel like this is was an attempt to get a mass way of reintroducing it and injecting it into kind of like the youth of today.
And to say it hasn't had the best kind of PR side.
No, it hasn't.
For it, but we're not really going to talk about that because you can hear anyone talking about that.
God, yeah.
But let's talk about it as a musical because I think it's got new songs by Pasek and Paul and uncredited lyrics by Jack Feldman, which really does annoy me because he's a very good lyricist. He did Copacabana. He did some songs with Alan Menken for Newsies.
Why did he go uncredited?
Don't know. It's just that when I was looking at the album at the bottom, it said songs by musical lyrics by Pasek and Paul and Jack Feldman, which is I'd be very annoyed if I were him, but maybe he didn't want his name attached to it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
What's interesting is if you look at Snow White, the 37 masterpiece, it has 4 songs.
I'm Wishing, Smile in a Song.
Hi Ho.
Hi Ho. Whistle While You Work.
Yep.
Oh, Someday My Prince Will Come, yeah. So there's about 5-6 songs in Snow White.
And now there's about 24.
No, actually, I didn't think there were too many.
No? I take that back. I thought... No, there weren't too many songs. I think that it's just... We had the opening sequence, which was kind of talking about where the good things grow.
Which I liked that, actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really strong number, and it did make it feel really musical theatre. And I think for a live-action remake, naturally one of the things is to delve into a bit of backstory and give a bit of context, and I thought they summarised it quite nicely in that number. It didn't drag on too long.
What's interesting, though, is if you look at Snow White... 1937, the musical hadn't really been developed yet.
No.
They had things like Showboat and the early kind of musical comedies, but
nothing on the scale that it was done for.
Rodgers and Hammerstein hadn't turned up and said, this is how you integrate a book, music and lyrics, and you do all this.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see what people do with it now to flesh out moments. And the scene that really did impress me was Hi Ho, because as opposed to just the miners singing "It's home from work we go," it becomes a full sequence of them going to work, and then they're at work, and then they go home, and we're introduced to all of the.
But they do that in the film anyway, because you see them in the mine.
But it's a lot longer in the film.
Yeah.
So we're introduced to each character individually.
Yeah.
The magical friends, or whatever they're called.
Magical creature. I don't know.
I thought that's Harry Potter.
I don't. Look, they'll probably turn up on Hagrid's wonderful magical motorbike adventure.
So I like that. I like that they fleshed out some musical moments. They're so good, those early songs. And Pasek and Paul's songs are fine, but they're very.
I liked Waiting on a Wish, but it's fine.
Very modern, and it's kind of stands out like a sore thumb. It's very. Really, I'm going to belt my arse off in this song.
It didn't really match the era. Yeah. Like, it's a lovely song, but would do better in something like Wish.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like a more modern Disney thing, rather than something that's very much set in a certain period as well. It's too modern. But it's still a nice song.
Yeah.
And I like how they kind of made it that she was waiting on that to be able to kind of lead the kingdom, rather than just, I'm waiting for a man to come and get me. Because I do think that is one of the things that over the years it has developed, and that is the sort of concept in a film that would have to be changed.
But one could argue that's still the story.
Yeah, true. But if you're going to make it quote quote relevant for and inspiring for a new generation, it's not a bad message.
No. Gal Gadot, whatever her name is.
I saw the best review of this.
Yeah.
It said Gal Gadot giving her best impression of a cardboard cutout.
Okay.
And then somebody else saying that she went to the Kristen Stewart School of Acting.
What, the one face?
Yeah.
She wasn't.
Somebody else said that the magic carpet in Aladdin gave more of a performance than she did. So,
a friend of mine said the magic carpet in Aladdin gave the best performance in that film. She wasn't as bad as I thought she was, but I'm not an actor, so I can't really.
So one of the pet peeves that we've discussed is people recording in the cinemas, right? And this is something that theatre etiquette, cinema etiquette has gone down the pan, but especially for this film, when we saw it, there were so many people that just they may as well.
We did make the mistake of going on like a Sunday afternoon, so it is like key family time, but I'm not blaming the kids.
No, it was the adults, the adult fathers that were shouting out. What can I say on here, Nicholas?
Whatever you want.
The father that shouted out slit her throat and shut her up.
Yeah,
to Snow White.
He said worse than that as well to his 5-year-old girl, who was quite
really
enjoying the film.
Invested in the film.
Yeah,
but I think to shout that out as if you're at the Rocky Horror Show, that graphic when you're in a cinema with children was awful.
I did appreciate the fact when he fell asleep and the only noise coming out of him was his snoring.
Oh, don't. And then he started throwing popcorn at the screen. Anyway, that was just one
Not to be muted by the phone call that went off in front of us, and then the person answered it.
Yeah, I know. But
it's a good thing they weren't in front of me. They would have got another... Not that I hit people, I'm just saying.
Tap in the back of the chair, that was meant to be. But what I meant by that is, obviously people have been recording this film and clips have made their way to social media. One of which is kind of like one of Gal Gadot's bit when she's talking to the huntsman, taken out of context. And yeah, it's not great.
No.
It's not great.
I quite liked her song.
I like the song, just wrong for the film and the character, I think. Personally, I think as well, costume-wise, in the thing that really disappointed me with her is when she came out in a big purple number, well, not big purple number, but like the iconic evil queen that we know, like the purple velvet cape and the white collar. When she came out in that, I was like, yes, this is the power move that we need. This is, yes. That moment where she stood there at the top of those stairs in her full evil queen get-up, I was like, finally, this is what it needs to be. And then I take a further look and I look at her dress that she's wearing. I think,
polyester.
No, it's not necessarily just polyester. It's that moderately cheap sequin fabric that a lot of drag queens make their dresses from. No disrespect to the queens who make their dresses from it. They look fabulous, but not when you're a big budget Disney movie with an iconic villain. Do you know what I mean?
I'm sure there was a creative choice behind it.
But yeah, I loved some of the things they did incorporating jewels and things, all the hand, like beading and things. And then it almost felt like, oh God, we've forgotten the dress. We've spent so long on the accessories, we've actually forgot. Quick, someone, where's the sequin fabric? Let's knock that up.
Get the props from the mine.
Yeah, it's kind of what it just fell a bit flat.
See, I thought that was going to be a plot point. That she gets
taking the diamonds from the mine.
To make, and it might be that, you know, is the reason behind her having all those gems and things.
Who knows? But
I did like her number because...
Do you know, I remember she sang a number, but
All Is Fair is the name of her song.
Yeah, but I don't remember it.
No, but it works well in the moment because she's never had a song before. So it's good that they finally...
I don't know that she... Because I see her as being the sort of character that she is so powerful in her cool, calm, collected demeanour that makes her even more terrifying.
Okay.
That she doesn't need a song. All she has to do is like stand there and look at you or speak in a really controlled way.
Does Judge Claude Frollo therefore not need a song?
Depends. One could argue with him that through song he speaks all the things that he can't say from his profession.
And
do you know what I mean?
Wouldn't Evil Queen do that as well?
No.
Okay.
Because she'd tell it to you. She'd speak to you.
That's an interesting point.
In a cool and levelled way. But it's those kind of people the most evil of all.
Yeah.
And I felt that suddenly giving her a massive musical theatre number, it was camp as fuck, but it just kind of took away some of the evil out the Evil Queen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Made her a bit fair.
No. Just was a bit like, oh, that was a thing that happened.
I quite like that there's two duets between the huntsman.
No, not the huntsman.
No, the
Robin Hood wannabe.
The Robin Hood wannabe. And
it's part 2, Snow White, Men in Tights.
Snow White. A kind of fun, campy number called Princess Problem, which is quite...
Yeah, I quite liked that one.
Quite good. I enjoyed that.
About that one.
But yeah, I mean, one thing you brought up was, compared to Wicked, which... is very muted in its colour tone. You said you appreciated...
I like this one. Yeah, so as somebody who has made their own variation of a Snow White dress, one of the things that I looked for when I was making it was the fabrics and the fabric colours. Because one of the things I noticed is whenever you buy a Snow White costume, you tend to find that they've got the bright yellow skirt and it's the real... yellow, blue, red combo, but it's bright in its colours and it kind of looks cheap and that you know it's a cheap costume. And so I was like, no, I want to go for the more traditional when I made mine, which is why I went for like that kind of muted goldy whatever colour I did, like the similar to her initial one in the animated film. Tried to match it to that as much as possible. And then when I saw that this film was coming out, I was like, God, we've gone for the bright yellow, we've gone for the blue, we've gone for the red. Jesus, it looks cheap before it's even started. However, I take back those thoughts that I had when I saw all of the advertisement for it, because one of the things I really liked about this film is it's so colourful, it's so bright, it almost gives those Cinderella vibes, even though I don't know if this one was done on... I don't think this was film, I think this was also shot on digital.
Can't comment.
You're the tech one out of the two of us. But it was bright, colourful, eye-catching, and it didn't come across as being too cheap. I did like that she kind of had like...
Hope not. It's 250 million it cost to make.
Don't. It's a shame they didn't actually spend any of that on fabric for the Evil Queen, but there we are. So... I did like she had the kind of overskirt thing as well that kind of got ripped off in the forest scene, which in the animated film she loses her cape. So I quite like that, and then it revealed it, and then it's like the bright colour, like she finds the happiness, blah, 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 blah. All that kind of thing. All the symbolism. But... yeah, I just thought, and that's one of the other things that made me think it was appealing to kids more, is because of how bright and colourful and eye-catching it was. It's not like Wicked that's really muted, or like when we watched Adolescence, there was no colour in that whatsoever. So it's really nice actually to have a film that's got colour back in it. It was lovely.
Yeah.
And that made me feel happy just in itself, at the fact that I was like, oh, there's actual colour in the cinema.
It's nice, wasn't
really,
it?
Yeah, and that bright yellow really did lend to it as well, because it was so eye-catching, and I think from that point of view it did work. I don't know. I'm probably just rambling, but made me happy.
Good. I was very disappointed that there wasn't a big transformation scene, because that is the kind of big moment in the film.
Because I was kind of gutted. She went into a little like Larry bit, and I was gutted because I was like, oh, we haven't even had like the big swoosh with the cloak down the stairs. Oh, God. And then she went into like her little side room, and there was just a bit of smoke, and that was... that.
She wasn't even that terrifying to look at once she transformed.
No, I wanted the full witches
Enchanted did it
transformation. Better. Yeah, I wanted like a witches, Angelica Houston style transformation to reveal the Evil Queen. And I wanted to see her in pain. Like, she's obviously doing this to try and get her own thing, but like in the animated version of this, like you see the actual anguish,
the transformation,
pain that like has her fingers grow and like change and everything, and she's putting herself through that because she really thinks that this is what's going to get her to be the fairest of them all. Like, I just think it's such a poignant moment, and to have that almost really stripped from the film was a bit like, oh, it was a very underwhelming moment.
And she just turns up at the cottage and saying, "You want an apple?" And
hell yeah, we used to.
But she didn't look. She just looked slightly older.
Yeah, she didn't look ugly or threatening. No.
And that's the thing with this film, is all the threat
is gone.
Apart from like crossbows being pointed at her and the knife at the neck.
Yeah.
So there are kind of moments of it, but
not the moments we wanted.
But not the moments for the villain getting her.
Yeah, because that whole bit at the end where she's just banished.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, is that it? And then it's never really concluded.
I thought, are we going to have the... Are they then going to chase her and they're going to have a boulder fall on her and all the dwarfs are going to help?
I wonder if there's a post-cred scene of her just wandering around.
I don't know. I mean, what purpose do her friends serve? Because they help kill the villain in the original, don't they? Mm-hmm. But here, they're just kind of a bit annoying, really.
I don't know. It's an interesting one.
And then you have the P. Diddy party at the end with all the
white party,
the pillowcases and stuff, which was fine because it harks back to why she's called Snow White, because she was born in the snow and all that kind of guff. But
it's a real mix of a film. Like, there are some bits that are really truthful to the original, and there are some bits that are just like, why?
The bit that annoyed you most was there was no, to our knowledge, we didn't stay for the whole credits, but there was no kind of tribute to Walt.
No, that did really rile me, because obviously Disney have now stripped any recognition of Walt. There's no Walt Disney Studios, there's no Walt Disney Presents, it's all just Disney. Even the castle now just says Disney, it doesn't say Walt Disney. And I think especially for this one, that Disney would not be where it is today if it wasn't for that original Snow White cartoon. The fact they didn't even put any recognition of Walt Disney back in the logo kind of just felt insulting.
Well, I need to look at the full credits to kind of see if they did put a
but you would
little...
have thought before the start of the film, even just go back to the original title card.
And they did that with the kind of silly gerbil opening the book or whatever it was at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. But they could have actually done it with the original title card, just saying Walt Disney. And that would have been such a nostalgic moment and a real tribute to the foundings of the company. But no.
Let's talk about A Whole New World of Alan Menken, which was the concert that we went to at the London Palladium. Very much an evening of three halves.
It was incredible. Good night.
We booked tickets to see it and went with our friend Andrew. It was lovely to... This is a show that Alan has done all in Tokyo, and he does it at D23 and kind of LA, and this is his first time doing it in London. And it's a one-man show. It's just him on a piano talking about all his life and his songs, and there's slideshows and pictures of people he's worked with and video footage and audio footage, which is quite nice. So it's like a full multimedia experience. It's not just... It's
like having his autobiography laid out in front of you, narrated by him.
What were your thoughts of... But what were you expecting, and did it deliver?
I was kind of expecting that, to be honest, just to look back at his work, his life, and what he's accomplished throughout his career. I liked the cut song sections. I thought they were really nice, and it was nice for people who... like me, you're diehard Disney fans, and I've seen other bits of his work as well, but not as familiar with the songs from Newsies, for example, or, there's another one, a couple of musicals that he's mentioned.
Like Leap of Faith.
Things like that I'm not so aware of. So it's quite nice.
Don't worry, no one else is either.
But that's what's nice about it, is the fact that they all get included. Because they could have so easily been swept aside and it's like, we'll just chuck another Pocahontas song in here. Do you know what I mean? Like, people will know that one, stick it in. So it was really nice to have a kind of well-rounded idea of what he has done and the variety of what he's done. And it was also lovely to have the little backstories to certain songs or the time in his life.
And what was interesting was, for me, is I never really watched the show. I've seen tiny clips of it on YouTube, but when I'm not saying this in detriment to Alan, but he's such a wonderful performer, and that's what surprised me, because when he comes out and he starts telling you his stories, he does that wonderful thing that's very good stand-up comedians do when they make it seem like they're just making it up on the spot.
It felt like we were just having a conversation with him, not that we were in the London Palladium.
Yeah. And then when I watched the same concert from 4 years ago, it was word for word the same. I was like, that is really impressive to kind of give that really relaxed feeling of, I'm going to chat with you and perform some of my songs. I think he ad-libbed some bits, but generally it was all kind of...
It's scripted.
Yeah. And to remember all that, and I think he had auto cue for the lyrics, but to remember all that music, I know he's been playing it for years and years and years, but it's not easy.
No.
And that's what surprised me the most. And also, I'm not surprised, but it was lovely to see, it was the absolutely huge round of applause that he got when he just entered that stage for the first time, and after each song, and after Act One. It's kind of... It's... When you, like me, and you grow up being a fan of his, you kind of don't realise that other people are, because you're not ashamed to admit it, but it's not like a football team or something like that that's kind of normal. You
almost feel like you gatekeep. It's like, because I like this thing and no one else that I know likes this thing, so it's only me that likes this thing. So then when you go into the Palladium where everyone feels the same, you're like, hang on a minute, you're not meant to know that because I know that. Like,
and that was lovely. And yes, I've heard every story before, but most of them have been on this podcast, but it's kind of nice to hear it again in person and just see him have a wonderful time. And that was...
I also...
And give credit to lyricists. That's another thing that he's always been very good at. And it gave me such joy that Glenn Slater was in the audience, because he's been here working on Clueless, which we'll talk about in a future episode. And Alan made him stand up, even though he messed one of his lyrics up. And Tim Rice got a round of applause. Apparently, Tim Rice was at the matinee, so he was the kind of the guest. It's like Inside Number 9.
Inside the Alan Menken show.
Exactly.
The other thing is, as well, as I said at the time to you, it was just such a beautiful tribute to Howard Ashman as well.
Absolutely.
And now I know you're huge Howard Ashman fan. So how did you find it from that point of view?
It's always very difficult to hear anyone talk about Howard Ashman, because not only did he do such an important thing for Disney, he did such an important thing for family musicals, effectively. And he did such an important thing for musicals.
In general.
And he did such an important thing for... kind of pushing forward the art of proper musical theatre writing, which, as I've long said in this podcast, is an art that is dying. And he would have, if he saw Wish, he would have ripped the wall off, probably. Or if he saw maybe even Snow White, he would have absolutely
thrown something across a room.
And I wish Howard was still alive, because he would be in charge of that whole company now.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame that he was taken so soon, and to watch Alan still get teary-eyed talking about it. And it's so tragic that he never saw Beauty and the Beast and things. And you look at Beauty and the Beast knowing what was going on in Howard's life, and the film has a whole different meaning.
Yeah.
And so the evening was bittersweet at times. There's a wonderful song that he and Alan wrote called Sheridan Square, which was a song that was a tribute to all the friends that died in the AIDS epidemic. And that nearly got me, but I've heard it before. Had I not heard it before,
I got teary-eyed at that.
Yeah.
Because obviously before he did it, he explained the meaning behind it, and then when you hear the lyrics, I was like, oh.
Yeah. But listen to Human Again.
Yeah.
Or the whole thing of Beauty and the Beast about a once good person struck down with an irreversible curse.
Yeah.
With a ticking
time limit.
That's what Howard had. And Alan, that's why Act 1 was kind of, this is Howard.
Yeah.
Act 2, we're going to...
Here's everything else.
Yeah. And that was a really lovely tribute to Howard Ashman.
I love you too.
and Alan Menken. And thank you.
I cried at one point.
What point did you cry at?
I'm going to give you 10 seconds to guess. 9.
I guess it was when Ariel appeared.
Yeah! I cried during part of it.
But what did we do afterwards? We were very kindly asked back to the after party afterwards, and Hannah has a little Mermaid.
It's a notebook, but it's one of the ones that got released when they did the kind of run of mock VHS tapes as notebooks. So if you put it on a shelf, it just looks like the good old Little Mermaid VHS. I know they did Beauty and the Beast ones. I know they did Aladdin ones. Kind of that Renaissance era of the VHS. They released as notebooks. And I took that one along with me and Alan very, very graciously and lovely.
You signed it, and he also wrote some notes for the Little Mermaid.
Yeah, he wrote Part of Your World.
Which I had to tell him what the notes were, which was mildly
amusing. Right, Mr. Smug, but, pipe down.
I mean, he must have been exhausted after doing 2 shows. I mean, the fact he got through the song from Newsies was a miracle, I think, because he was really out of breath.
That's the other thing I was really pleasantly surprised with, because obviously I've heard him sing on chat shows and things, like the Paul O'Grady episode springs to mind as an iconic one. But until you actually sit and you hear him in person, how strong his voice is still.
Oh, yeah. I remember years ago he said to me, not many people know about this, Nick. This was before he was doing shows. He said, I'm a really good singer.
Aww.
And it helps sell the stuff. And I love the story I don't know if Alan probably told this story. I can't remember. But when Angela Lansbury was being asked to do Beauty and the Beast,
you're squeaking on your chair. Can you sit still?
She was sent a version of Beauty and the Beast, the song, and she heard it and said, "No, I it's not in the character's voice, I don't think." And they said, "Which one were you sent?" And she said, "Well, I was sent Alan's demo." "No, don't listen to that one. It's too well sung. Listen to Howard's version where he acts it."
Yeah, and speaks it.
And he does it, "Tale old as time." You know, that as opposed to, I'm not going to sing it properly, but...
Why?
Because I can't.
Why aren't you going to sing?
Because I want to keep the audience listening. But that's kind of... Alan is a real singer and Howard was the actor.
Yeah.
I mean, Alan acts as well, but you can always tell on the demos where Alan is because it just sounds ever so slightly like him. But Howard was wonderful. Another testament to Howard. So that was Alan Menken at the London Palladium, and that was Snow White, not at London Palladium. It was at
View.
The View, Westfield. We're seeing something quite soon, aren't we, which we're looking forward to, which we will tease. We're seeing The Great Gatsby.
I'm so excited for this. I love it. So...
a story about which I know nothing.
I know, and that's what baffles me, because I thought with your love of and knowledge of music and the era, I would have thought you'd be all over this. So I'm really surprised that you've gotten this far in life and don't know anything about it. Well, and plus I'm kind of feeling smug because this will be the first time that I go into something knowing more than you do. So
okay,
whoop whoop.
Lovely. Look forward to it. Thank you very much, Hannah.
Thank you, Nick.
We'll speak to you soon.
Nick. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. To find out more about the world of Musical Talk, you can visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk, where you'll find all our episodes, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Musical Talk.